G'day ladies and gents, and welcome to Armoured Warfare Early Access. So today we'll be taking a look at what is quite literally my first experience with Obsidian Entertainment's new tank game, Armoured Warfare. I've never played around with it before, I've never been involved in the earlier tests, I've only got into the early access, and my first playtime, well, you're probably watching this about 24 hours after my first play. I have been looking forward to this one for some time. I'm really hoping it's going to be a good game, so let's have a look at my first experience. So logging into the game, I find a row of tank slots at the bottom with two vehicles, a Soviet PT-76 amphibious light tank, Tier 1, and the United States M113 armoured personnel carrier, again Tier 1. You'll also notice the crew being displayed, ammos and consumables down the bottom, and the sort of layout of the hangar itself. This is feeling awfully familiar, isn't it? Yes, it does seem the rumours are true and Armoured Warfare is just a World of Tanks clone. And this really isn't actually a bad thing. World of Tanks is a good game, it wouldn't be so popular if it wasn't. And being a clone is not a bad thing either. Most of your favourite games are clones or draw heavy inspiration from a game that came before. The thing with making a clone of a game that's already in existence and still operating, the best clones always take the formula from the original game and improve on it in some way. So in what ways have I noticed already that Armoured Warfare has improved on World of Tanks? Well, for most of the hangar and most of the interface in the menu system, not at all. In fact, the interface in Armoured Warfare feels quite a bit clunkier than World of Tanks. But World of Tanks has many years of development behind it to streamline it. One change I did notice, however, that is definitely an improvement is the dealers. Now, the dealers replaces nations in what you would expect from World of Tanks, or in a game like War Thunder. The dealers are where you basically find your tech trees that you unlock your new vehicles within. They're arms dealers rather than actual nations, but they usually are assigned to a particular nation or national group. The two arms dealers that are currently available in the early access test, one is very much assigned to the Soviet Union, one is very much assigned to the United States, so it's pretty clean cut on what nation they actually represent. So, how is this an improvement over World of Tanks or War Thunder's national system? Well, the problem with the nation system is there are plenty of nations out there that have developed technology over the years that may not have developed enough of it to warrant their own tech tree. And this is actually quite an issue. If there's a tank that you want to add to your game, in World of Tanks or War Thunder, if they want to add a tank to the game that does not fit in with the current tech trees that are available and the nations that are assigned, they either need to create an entirely new tech tree and find enough vehicles to populate this tech tree, or they need to add it in as some kind of premium vehicle assigned under a nation that the tank may not have actually served under. Having the tech trees based around arms dealers that deal in a variety of technology and vehicles from different nations completely bypasses this entire problem. So that's really the only innovation I've seen on the menu system, but it's definitely a good one and a good start. So let's move on to the gameplay and take a look at what's going on there. So, straight into my first battle in the PT-76. Battle starts in 10 seconds. It's a countdown setup, almost the same as World of Tanks. Tanks randomly arrayed around the spawn point area. This is looking very much World of Tanky at the moment. Quickly going through the controls, zoom functionality, movement controls, everything works exactly the same way as World of Tanks does. Nothing has changed there. Now, again, none of this is a particularly bad thing. The World of Tanks control system works perfectly fine. Don't change what isn't broken. So, the next thing to look at is the graphics and the environment. Overall, I like what I see. The game looks good, it's crisp and clear, and most importantly, it's not modern shooter bland brown, which is something I was really worried this game might become. It's got some good strong colour in here. Texture quality on the terrain seems good. I like the ring here with the smoke coming off on the edges, it just gives it a little extra something for the cap circle. The game does seem to be suffering from low frame rate, however. This early in development, I expect Obsidian is yet to optimise the graphics engine. That's usually the last thing that's done before you release a game, so not really worried there. Sound effects. Overall, I like the sound effects that I've heard so far. The tank sounds like a tank. That beeping in the background confused me for a second until I realised what that is the sound of enemy targets pinging on the map, that they've been detected. I can see already that sound, why it is a great idea, is going to become really friggin' annoying in a very short period of time. The explosions are relatively shiny as well, so that's always a plus. Now, that was something else that I quite like. If you notice when I fired that shot, I did hit the target, but I didn't get the kill. I didn't even do damage to him. And you would have noticed it come up underneath. Hit, overmatch. What actually happened there was it just told me what happened, why I didn't do any damage. His armor overmatched the angle of my shell, so the shell just ricocheted off. Apparently Obsidian has been paying attention to the rather constant, oh my god, what the fuck, how the hell did that shell not go in, that pops up at least 5 times a match, every single World of Tanks match, and they've just introduced a feature into the game that'll tell you exactly why your shell didn't go in, so I like that. Map design overall seems to be pretty good too. If you check the map at the moment, you'll see a front line is basically developed at the halfway point between both teams' spawn-ins. Judging from where they've lined up, it looks like the map is fairly balanced from both sides. Looking at it on ground level here, it is really an interesting looking map. Like, I'm really impressed. Just cruising down the docks past the cargo ships, you've got all the nice cranes, and we've got some tanks here and a train. It looks like I can't penetrate the train, that's a real shame. That would have been kind of cool if I can. Now, I did notice something at this point as well. Now, this is the first time firing my gun in the match, and it was extremely laggy. Now, I am in Australia and I am playing on the European server. This is giving me a ping of about 333. The thing is, I'm used to this sort of ping. This is the kind of ping that I have on pretty much every game that I play, and I know what a 300 millisecond ping feels like. This wasn't a 300 millisecond ping. The time between me actually clicking the button on my mouse to fire the gun and the gun actually firing was closer to a full second. Now, this does tell me that there is a little bit of lag in the netcode at this time, and it's going to be a particular problem for those that are playing on high pings. However, once again, early access, still in development. I have no doubt that Obsidian will work over the netcode and get it really sharp in the very near future. I actually find this slightly more concerning than the frame rate, however, because generally you want your netcode working pretty smoothly fairly early on in development, so you can build everything else on top of it. And it looks like it's still not quite there yet, but I'm pretty confident that it will get there. Now, I have to give a shout out here to the art department's work on the skybox. Look at this skybox in the background. This is just incredible, and the colouring on the skybox perfectly fits the environment we're driving through. It makes this map feel like you're not driving in a small 15 versus 15 player battle arena, which is what you're doing. It makes you feel like you're in part of a much larger combat environment. Now, I'm not entirely sure if you managed to hear it over the map pings that have been going on almost non-stop for the entire length of this match, but there's been a lot of sounds of guns firing and machine gun and cannons blowing in the background. Not all of those are players firing, however. A lot of it is ambient sound effects running in the background, and the effect is great. The ambient sound effects, in conjunction with the high-quality animated skybox that we've got running in the background, gives you the effect of being in a larger environment, of being in something bigger than what you're in, which is something that a lot of the games of this kind have actually been missing. If I had any real complaints about what I've seen in the match so far, it would probably be the interface once again. Much like the menu system, the interface looks clunky. Oop, hit overmatch, that bounced. Come on, oop, that's good, taking shots from the side. Back it up and give him some of my front. Yeah, as I was saying, the interface feels a bit, and looks a bit clunky, as you can see. With the graphics being so high quality and nice and sharp and crisp in the background, these big chunky menu pieces on the side showing all the player lineups and what vehicles they're driving seem way too big. The large tank scale on the left, the large map on the right, although the map size is probably perfectly right, but I don't need a tank the same size as my map on the left hand side of my screen displaying what is going on. I could do with something half that size. It just feels a little bit bloated, but again, early access, I'm sure the art department has probably already noticed this and is working on it again. And this was a pretty good match for my first match. That was a pretty big turnaround at the end, from 7-10 in their favour to 14-10 our favour in about 35 seconds. It was kind of great to watch the blitz. Of course, first match, I really had to do something dumb and get myself killed. Just try and get a better shot. That was just stupid, Mags. Quite an interesting distortion effect on the death cam, of course, and then it flicks straight through to the option to go through and spectate out the rest of your team until the match ends, which thankfully didn't take a huge amount of time. So the results screen, and pretty much a standard fare here. Crew rank and research experience earned, along with credits earned for the match, but that comes with a breakdown of exactly where those credits come from, which is something I actually really like. A brief overview of every hostile you encountered during the match and what you did to them, covering spotting, direct damage, team damage and kills. Nothing particularly new here, but it gives you exactly the information you need. The team results page is almost an exact copy of World of Tanks, no real surprise there. The screen displays pretty much everything you need to know and can be sorted by any column you choose. So, heading straight into the second match, this time driving the M113, and remember what I was talking about before with AMD FX? Armoured Warfare is full of little moments like this right at the start of matches and even during matches, with helicopters doing flyovers, in the background seeing Apache attack helicopters doing ground strikes. One of the maps at the very start of it has a C-180 flying low over the battlefield and gets shot by a SAM, and it actually crashes in the middle of the battlefield. The sheer variety of maps I've encountered too. I've seen snow, desert, tundra, the urban environments that you saw in the first map with the docks with the desert off the side. They've really gone all out to make sure that there is a wide selection of maps available even this early in the game, which is something I think is really great, and they're all beautifully detailed. Sounds of jets flying over the top just then. Now for this battle I'm not actually going to talk a whole lot. I want you to be able to observe and listen to the sound effects and the ambient effects yourself, without my voice getting in the way. Basically all I'm going to do in this match is drive this thing down the left hand side, as most of my team seems to be heading into the city section of this map on the right, and I'm going to try and flank and scout for my team.
Identified. Hostile tank. Identify target. Hostile tank. Identified. Hostile tank. Identified. Hostile PC.
Now of course I did have to check to see whether or not this would work. And since it did, of course that meant I'm going to have to shoot them all.
Identified. Hostile PC. No effect. No effect. Ricochet.
And that was the end of my second match. First two battles, both wins with kills, so pretty happy with that. So what was my first impressions of Armoured Warfare? Honestly, I like what I see. I had a lot of fun with the limited amount of time I had to play around, and I'm looking forward to more. I only really had two concerns. The first was the netcode. While it's possible that what I experienced was just related to ping, as someone who plays on 300 plus on the regular due to my location, I think it's more than that. While the game is in early development, netcode needs to be dealt with very early on, otherwise you run into War Thunder style hit detection issues. I am going to log onto the NA server the next time it's available and see whether or not I have the same issue there. Now, why this one is a concern, it's only a minor one considering how early in development the game is. My second concern is a bit larger. I can see Armored Warfare is going to be a good game, and I can see how much the developers have put into the game already, and I'm really looking forward to spending more time with it. However, I am worried that with its overall aesthetic feeling so similar to World of Tanks, many may just write the game off as a reskin, and I think it's worth more than that. Hopefully Obsidian has plans to overhaul the user interface so that not only is it less clunky, but also it distances itself a little from what will very soon be its primary competitor. So anyways, ladies and gents, that was my first impressions of Obsidian Entertainment's Armored Warfare and my first two battles. I'm looking forward to spending a little more time on this one. Hope you enjoyed the video. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more. Drive smart, drive safe, and I'll catch you on the battlefield.